Hi, I'm Roger van der Weijden.
And I'm Alexandra Fortin.
I make dumb cartoons on the internet. She creates this. But when we're combined, we form Evil Doc, a collaboration team that also makes dumb cartoons, but better drawn. The fantastic people at Sonic Paradox invited us over as guests on their panel. For fun, we decided to film a little documentary about Sonic fans, considering we were surrounded by them.
That's when we suddenly discovered a special guest will be appearing at this convention as well, Ken Pontaff.
Half the writing staff of the current Sonic games. Well, this was a chance we couldn't pass. I started to write it in the stories for some time before, and I had some questions. So it was time for confrontation. For a battle of the centuries, a debate that would echo over the histories of time in its pure immensity. Except I'm too cowardly to do any of that, so we just talked. Yeah.
Tonight, Evil Doc's Alex and Roger up against TV show and video game writer Ken Pontaff.
Evil doctors, I'm ready for my examination, and so should you be.
Yeah, what the intro just said. Now, we're not journalists or reporters, so we have no experience how to do this kind of thing. In fact, I was already away from home, staying at a friend's house in New York, getting ready for the convention before I even heard Mr. Pontaff would be coming. I was told he would only be at the convention to appear on a karaoke panel. Well, if that was my only chance to speak to Mr. Pontaff, so be it.
Do what you want, 'cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
Yar har fiddly-dee.
I am a pirate. I am a pirate.
What the heck is that awful racket? You killing cats down here or what?
I am a pirate. I am a pirate. Yar.
It's 1 in the morning. I'm trying to sleep.
I got a feeling Roger actually wanted to sing the stupid pirate song.
Huh?
Yar har. Let's go wherever you go.
Yar har.
Yar har.
Hey, you. Keep it down.
I was all ready. It was going to be the most amazing karaoke ever. But then we discovered Mr. Pontaff was going to be walking all over the convention, and the program we received had an entire timetable showing us every point of the convention where he'd be. He'd be at some weird otaku maid cafe thing first, so we tried our luck there first.
And there we found Ken Pontaff.
Again, we're not journalists, so we had to be clever and think carefully about the questions we could ask. We decided to ignore Sonic at first and ask a more general question.
We didn't immediately want to come across as psychopathic Sonic fans.
I deal with a lot of aspiring writers. As a fast animator, there's always a bunch of writers secretly hoping to get me to animate their scripts, and that experience came in handy. See, we had to ease down into the interview and make Mr. Pontaff feel at ease. And there's one way to make writers comfortable in talking. Ask them to talk about themselves. Question 1. For some series you have written for, you only did 1 or 2 episodes. How can you, as a guest writer, get the feeling and tone of the show right?
Typically, you're given a show bible and some scripts. You read them and absorb the characters, and I think I'm just a very quick study when it comes to that.
So, they use a show bible, huh? Had no idea how it works, but makes a lot of sense actually. Makes me wonder if Sonic has a bible like that. Huh, considering how inconsistent the series and characters are, that bible must look like a horrible mess.
Yeah. Damn, I already knew of the show bible, so in retrospect I wish I was more specific. Like if they write a script from scratch with only the script bible, or if there's already a script template where you only fill in the details. Okay, main reason I asked this question, besides stalling the Sonic question, is that when I did research on Pontaff and Graff, I noticed it's mostly the shows where Graff worked together with Pontaff, like the Transformers episode they did, that I got that Sonic Colors feel to it, this clear sense that it's done by the same writers. Where Pontaff in his solo project is much more skilled in mirroring the source material. It's because of this that I tend to think of Graff as the more dominant writer, the artsy guy, and Pontaff more as the experienced professional. But that's my interpretation based on the material. Talking to Pontaff, my interpretation was not as solid as I thought. He did seem to have a very strong personal presence. Anyway, time for question 2. I had no idea how much time I'd get with Pontaff, so I knew after wasting the first question, the second one had to be a crowd pleaser. So whenever I told other Sonic fans I'd be interviewing Pontaff, there's always one question they wanted to know about. How did they go from the violent happy tree friends to this very kid-friendly incarnation of Sonic? So, question number 2. How did you get in contact with Sega? Yeah, with the Sonic Adventures.
Oh, interesting story. We were doing a game for Happy Tree Friends, and I was in a meeting room with various Sega executives and producers, and I didn't even realize, neither of us realized, my cousin worked at Sega. Oh. And I didn't even know he was my cousin. We didn't know each other. We had never met. Wow. And so we're introduced, but the names don't click. About a week later, he's having dinner with another cousin who knows both of us, and they realize that I'm related to this guy. So one thing led to another. I worked on the Happy Tree Friends game, then I worked on Mad World, and then I worked on Sonic.
Yes. So, there you have it. Besides Mr. Pontaff's passion and skills, it's mostly being in the right place and family connections that got him in this specific Sega job. So despite the many fans for which writing Sonic would be the ultimate dream job, it's given to a decent, slightly eccentric and fun guy they happen to come across.
Probably because of that. Do you know how many people send fan script to Sega?
Oh yeah, I get a fan almost every month showing off what story he would write and asking my opinion before sending it to Sega. Poor guys at Sega must be drowning in all the fan-written scripts.
Imagine you have to read that all day. Even if there would be an amazing script among them, you'd be terrified at this point. Perhaps that's why they specifically went to Pontaff and Graff, who are free of crazy passion and obsession about it all.
In other words, if you want to become a Sonic writer, maybe you better just try for one of those many cool fan games that are being made these days.
I personally worked on a fan game some times ago, and you know how many writers they had? I'm pretty sure there were more than 12. You know how many actual artists and programmers and, people making the games they had? 3. And it amuses me to imagine that it's just a small version of what it would look like if Sega just gave that much power to fans in general.
Oh. Well, in that case, if you want to see your ideas come to life in actual game or animation, best bet is to teach yourself how to make a horrible, lame, stupid game or a lazy animation, like me. Or if you really want to become a professional writer like Pontaff, you need strong people skills, be charming, willing to take any job, and yes, have a lot of luck and connections. So, that third question. I didn't know how many questions I would be able to fire off, so this one was for my personal satisfaction. Warren Graff, Pontaff's partner for Sonic, is very hard to find any information on, and I was always wondering who contributes to what in order of style and personality. So, let's ask the man's partner himself. Question 3. Can you tell us something about Warren Graff?
Warren Graff! Don't you... Actually, Warren's a great guy. He's really funny. He knows more cultural references than anybody I know, and just has them memorized. We met on Happy Tree Friends. Another funny story. He was my neighbor. He lived probably 40 yards away from me in an apartment just down from mine. I'd even met him a couple of times, and didn't realize until we sat in the writer's room. He kind of looked at me and he said, "Do you ever shop at Molly Stone's, which is the market across the street?" And once again, with that sort of
small world.
It's a very tiny world.
Yeah, he seemed to be the pop culture humor guy. Anyway, didn't learn anything important here. But cute story. Next question.
I can't hide it, I just love Reboot. So no wonder why every time I have the chance to speak about it with a staff member, I can no longer hide my inner crazy fangirl. Since I'm giving Blair's BFF, I had a small idea already of Mr. Pontaff's contribution to the series. But trust me, asking for a Reboot anecdote is always an awesome story to hear. Not for kids though.
Question 4. What were your experiences with Reboot?
Okay, we noticed you worked on Reboot.
Yes.
Tell us the experience of that.
Working on Reboot was great. I only wrote one episode. It was the final episode of the series, although I believe they did some movie type things afterwards. And every single word of my script was rewritten. Every single word, except for the song at the end. I wrote a song that was called End Cap, I believe, and it encapsulated that's probably what they call it, End Cap. It encapsulated the entire season in a musical number done to the tune of Modern Major General.
Yes.
And they couldn't change that, and I don't think they wanted to, but they had just different idea of where they wanted the plot to go, so they had to ice it. I subsequently worked with them on War Planets and got to know the guys there. I think it was called something else in Canada, but great group of people.
Actually, I'm friends with David Blair, so...
oh, are you?
Yeah, I am. So we are Facebook friend-in-law.
There you are.
Yeah.
He took me to a strip club, because I told him the strip clubs in Portland were great. He said, well, let me show you the strip clubs in Canada.
It's Cecil? The strip club is Cecil.
Oh, I couldn't remember that. I killed many brain cells that night. I might have injured a few strippers.
Wow.
Okay, enough beating around the bush, enough small talk. It was time for confrontation. Next question was going to be serious.
Pirates versus ninjas? Well, no, but we do have one pirate versus some doctors, as Roger and Alex continue their examination of Buccaneer and Ryder Ken Pontaff.
Evil duck.
Question number 5. In Sonic Colors and Lost World, I had the feeling a lot of story elements were introduced but went nowhere. Did Sega or anyone meddle with the script or cut some scenes?
Did Sega kind of mess with the script at the end?
Well, in Colors, they had the entire... They didn't have the script written, but they had the entire plot line kind of figured out.
Yeah.
And I do think it kind of happened very abruptly. We had some other ideas on the way that we wanted it to go. But you know, we worked with what we had, and I think that there are some really funny moments in it. In Lost World, yeah, if the ending seems a little abrupt, it is entirely on Warren and I, because that was the first time on a Sonic story that we were able to come up with the idea and write the script from beginning to end.
Okay.
And I think the thing maybe we just kind of took the easy way out and ran out of time. Yeah, maybe that's what we did. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay, so I had this discussion with some guy who told me he loved Sonic Lost World's story, because Tails finally has some character development. And I agree, it's great that he finally has more to do than just standing around explaining things, as he did a lot in the past. Problem I have though is character development implies development, a growth, a starting position, an event, and following momentum. So when Eggman joins Sonic, we see Sonic and Tails joking and laughing about it. I need a shower. And then the next scene, Tails has this outburst of energy and anger and paranoia. Like, huh? Where did this come from? And where something didn't really have a build-up, others don't have any momentum. Tails turning to a cyborg has a nice build-up to it. Oh no, it will turn to a robot. This is scary and blah blah blah. And then he's Cyborg Tails and it's awesome and kick-ass and wow. And then he never appears again. Oh, there's no momentum to it. It's like a roller coaster, building and building and building, and then going down, and then nothing. It's like, where's the speed? Where's the energy? Where's the roller coastery stuff? That's when I started thinking that Sega might have been cutting some scenes. And there's an executive going, nah, this is for kids, and kids don't like exciting finales. They like it when the story just kind of evaporates and stuff, because of kids. Watching Sonic Colors and Lost World, I started pondering, when does a story have a narrative, or when is it just a collection of concepts?
Hey, let's make Eggman pissed off and angry at the Deadly Six. Doesn't that make him epic?
But yes, that does make him epic. But there's never any follow-up to it. It's like Arnold going, I'll be back, but then never coming back. It's just, okay. It never feels like a logical narrative to me. Maybe I'm thinking too complex. A lot of people like it for the concepts alone, and I have no idea how difficult it is to write a script and what kind of budget and time restraints and executive meddling Pontaff and Graff have to deal with. But, I'm just confused and curious. But, as far as I understand from Pontaff, this is done deliberately, so make of that what you will.
So after this incredible battle of wits, we decided to change the subject for now. We must say we were curious about Mr. Pontaff's more personal projects, so we wanted to know what specific show was the most special to him.
Yeah, to get a grip on his general taste. So, question 6. Which project you worked on is the most you?
In Lost World?
In your whole
in my whole experience. In my whole experience, Probably a show called Bump in the Night.
Ah, yes, the claymation.
Yes. I created that show with my partner, who is also my oldest friend. We know each other since we were children. And I remember when the first episode aired, my mother called me on the phone, and she said, "Jesus, Ken, you've been drawing that thing since you were 7 years old."
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So clearly that was born from my heart.
Hey, Bump in the Night. Didn't expect him to bring that one up, but yeah, it makes perfect sense. Of all those projects I saw, this one feels the most natural, energetic, and passionate. And with its optimistic tone, surreal and creative ideas and high energy, it's this kind of vibe I'd rather have in a comedy-focused Sonic than the more detached, sarcastic, meta, energy-sucking stand-up comedian shtick we got in Colors. Good thing Lost World toned that down.
I must confess, I was damn scared of these things as a kid. It's not just Bump in the Night, but the overall pre-3D era, when people use clay, papier-mâché, and puppets with an oversized mouth. I mean, just look at this!
Pussy. Good. We tricked them into thinking we're not psychopathic Sonic fans again. Let's go straight back to it. The newer Sonic games are often compared to that old cartoon show. Let's ask the man himself. Did he base their writing on one particular game or cartoon incarnation, or did they just do whatever? Question 7. Which incarnation of Sonic inspired you the most?
The first time. Which incarnation of the previous one inspired you the most? Or is it just your entire own thing?
It was pretty much our own thing. You know, and I'm sure that there are certain Sonic fans that will be outraged by this, but you know, I'm not a Sonic fan particularly. I mean, I don't hate Sonic, but I don't play the games.
Sure.
I don't know the history, and there is a small but very vocal group of fans that are not happy at all with some of the things that Warren and I have done. We think it's true to what is being asked of us, not only by our producers, who we need to answer to, but by the majority of the fans, based on questions the producers have been asking and things that they've been reading.
Sure. Well, at least the two robots are very popular.
Yeah, the two robots are great. I love them.
Cubot and Orbot.
Cubot and Orbot, yes. They almost got cut from the series. There was some questions from one of the groups of producers that they were really funny. They were great, but that Eggman wouldn't have that kind of relationship with a pair of robots. And obviously we ended up winning that argument because even if he doesn't or didn't have that, he can have it now if it's really funny and works.
Ah, so they did their own thing with Sonic. Okay, so the Cubot and Orbot thing, that's an interesting story. Now, a lot of seasoned Sonic fans are probably already shaking their heads in disbelief, considering practically every incarnation of Eggman from the past had some sort of bumbling sidekick, including two pairs of robots. So Sega complaining about Orbot and Cubot makes no sense. Even more weird since Orbot was already in Sonic Unleashed, before Pontaff and Graff got on board. And Mr. Pontaff said the color story was already written down and they only changed the dialogue. So obviously Orbot and Cubot were already a given. So it's probably specific dialogue and personality traits that were the problem. Now, I wasn't there and I don't know the Sega guy who was against them, but I myself have a problem with Orbot and Cubot, and I'm just gonna assume it's that reason why Sega was alarmed. Keep in mind, the following analysis is not so much a rant on Cubot and Orbot, or to make a statement why nobody should like them, or why Sega hates them or something like that. This is just an analysis why they don't particularly work for me, and why I think Sega might have taken offense at them at one point. Okay, so as I said before, Eggman has a long history with bumbling sidekicks, but there's one big difference between those and Orbot and Cubot. A positive element. For example, yeah, Scratch and Grounder from the old cartoon show always screw up, but they're also very loyal to Robotnik and desperate to please him. So, as far as children's comedy logic goes, they make perfect sense. Whenever he's thinking of getting rid of them, they always appeal to his ego, so he keeps them around. Sure. And in this other more dramatic incarnation of the series, you get a guy like Snively, who's passive-aggressive and hates Robotnik. But again, he has a positive element to him, as Robotnik's space is entirely automated, and Robotnik needs to have some sort of human in charge of the machines. So he needs Snively to be his assistant, commander, to give the otherwise static robots any orders, in case Robotnik himself is occupied. After all, we don't see Snively just cleaning up the bathrooms or mopping the floor. The guy's the commander. And so on and so on. Every one of Eggman's previous sidekicks always has some flaw or problem, but there's always a reason for Eggman's interest, or at least forced participation. Their knowledge, their devotion, their power. Because that's how comedy works, right? It's funny when you have two characters who hate each other or ruin everything for each other, have to work together. emphasis on have to. There's a hook that keeps them together. Then there's Orbot in the Sonic Unleashed incarnation. In this game I really liked him, because here he's the perfect world-dominating assistant. He constantly knows exactly what to do and how problems and disasters could have been averted, yet Eggman never listens and constantly fights with him. On a thematic level this is perfect. Eggman created the ultimate robot who knows exactly how to take over the world and assist him with it, but Eggman's ego and impatient personality constantly sabotages his own victory. I just love that idea. It's not just funny, but also a perfect showcase how a super intelligent guy like Eggman still keeps making mistakes. Orbot becomes a physical manifestation of Eggman's personality flaws. But alas, in Colors this element is dropped and Orbot is just a generic bad servant comedy robot. And that's what I'm missing with the current Orbot and Cubot. Not only do they have the most flaws of all Eggman's sidekicks together, they are and clumsy, and they're unmotivated, and they're lazy, and they're stupid, and they're passive aggressive, and they're hostile against Eggman. But there's no hook. There's no single element that ties them together with Eggman. They serve no social advantage because they're constantly irritating and insulting him. They have no specific skills that Eggman needs because they're usually just cleaning up or pressing a button. There's just no reason why Eggman has to keep them around. So the setup of the evil dictator who has to work with the clumsy assistant doesn't work because there's no solid foundation here. And because of that I can just never laugh at them because my brain is too busy being confused why Eggman keeps them around. And that's why they don't work for me. Now, the reason why I think Orbot and Cubot do work for other people is because they work on a different level. In previous games, characters were always written to be larger than life, big epic heroes, big epic villains, but from Colors on, Sonic, Tails, Orbot, Cubot, they're all written in a way that reflect how a lot of people like us think we are, or wish we'd be like. So a lot of people like us are stuck in a job we don't like, with a stupid boss, so we like to think of ourselves as Orbot and Cubot, just dicking around and being passive-aggressive on the job. It strikes a personal chord. So yeah, I can see why a lot of people like the robots. It just, to me, doesn't work with the Sonic universe, and especially not with Eggman, who has absolutely no reason to put up with this. He doesn't really work on a representative of my boss at work level. He's like the Joker, a weird mix of a crazy clown and a dangerous psychopath. He's larger than life! Giving him sidekicks that belong to an office manager just doesn't work for me. But to each their own, I guess. So yeah, that's what I think. Phew, well, that was another giant Sonic lecture. Well, Mr. Pontaff went to HumoCon specifically to man a Lazytown karaoke contest. So I figured I might as well ask at least one question about that show. Question 8. Did you actually have to go to the Lazytown studios in Iceland just to write a script?
Do you really have to go to Iceland to...
I was happy to go to Iceland. Yes, indeed. Everything is done under the roof there. And Magnus Schemming, the creator of Lazytown, he likes to exert a lot of control over every aspect of the production and really wants the writers in the room. If you come to my Lazytown panel, I actually have a little bit of video I shot of him giving direction to the writers.
Sadly, we weren't able to go to the actual I Am a Pirate panel. I practiced singing for nothing. Anyway, to be honest, I have no idea how often writers work at home or have to go to the studios. So we went to Iceland, but he also mentioned going to Canada for that Reboot follow-up show. I wish I was sharper and asked him how often writing jobs involve him traveling to studios or how often he works in the comfort of his own home. Was Sonic Lost World written at his home? Well, I forgot to ask, so I can only speculate.
Now we get into the meat of the interview. Many fans now complain about the lack of characters, especially now since they were replaced by wisps. And now that some popular characters like Shadow are completely gone, we tried to know if Sega was boycotting some of the characters. And that was the reason why Ken Pontaff and Warren Graff only write around Sonic and Tails. Well, we got a surprising answer.
Finally, a breakthrough. Alex seems excited. Does this pirate have more treasures of knowledge hidden away?
Please forgive me, but I forget your name.
We'll find out as Alex and Roger continue to interview Mr. Ken Pontaff.
Please tell all the Sonic fans that I said hi.
Walter! You're going down. Question 9. Would you ever consider utilizing someone else besides Tails in the next story, or is that a no-no by Sega?
I wouldn't say it's a no-no by Sega. Do you mean as playable characters or in the cutscenes?
In cutscenes, yes.
I'm happy to bring everybody to the party. I think it would be cool to like not even have Tails. You know, have him just captured and have him have his own little B story somewhere. Have Sonic team up with one or two of the other characters. That would be really fun.
So when you had to write Sonic Generations Shadow, you didn't was really negative or neutral, monsters go, whatever.
I'm trying to think if there are any characters in Sonic that I dislike. No. I'm happy to write any of them.
Okay, that's great.
So it's still possible for other side characters other than Tails to be allowed to do something. That's nice. Especially poor Knuckles can use some dignity. He's written in a way where they poke fun of his masculinity and reputation for being the tough guy of the group. Except he hasn't been a tough guy for, what, 12 years now? Well, 5 if you count Sonic Chronicles. He never does anything anymore. It's like making one of those Hulk Hogan in a bella dress dealing with children movie for an action star who has been with retirement for 20 years. It's less, wow, that badass wrestler's now in a pink dress. That's hilarious. But more, why did they put poor confused old grandpa in a dress? And even movies like that at least have an opening sequence where the movie tries to convince us he's a general action guy kicking ass before they let Hogan get punched into a wall by a 3-year-old girl. Knuckles doesn't even get that dignity. No badass intro, we go straight into him getting knocked out by girls and Walt Disney birds. Normally it's hilarious and I love jokes at the expense of Knuckles' tough guy persona. But at this moment he doesn't have enough momentum as tough guy to pay for those expenses, just making the jokes awkward. He's a treasure hunting warrior monk, not a whatever the hell is supposed to be in the current games.
Next question has a hidden purpose. I wanted to subtly spread the message that some fans wanted the Sonic Adventure style stories back. So I just asked if Mr. Pontaff would like to emulate the narrative of these games.
Question 10. Would you be interested in writing a bigger story, such as we had in the Sonic Adventure games?
Bigger story,
well, I would love to write bigger stories, but I'm not familiar with the Sonic Adventures that you're talking about.
Oh, you're not?
No, like I said, I didn't come into this being a Sonic player or a Sonic fan. I was aware of the existence of the character, of course, and peripherally knew what he was about, but I knew nothing about his history or anything. So I kind of Wikipedia and I watched some cutscenes from various games on YouTube. But yeah, I really don't know the chronology. It's like the Happy Tree Friends. We don't know the episodes as well as the fans do. We have to go to the Wikipedia page to make sure that we haven't already killed them in that particular fashion or that particular fashion. Yeah, they do track.
So yeah, Pontaff and Graff didn't get a history lesson and found out most of the series on their own. This apparently caused some controversy. As if these Sonic fans really care that much about it. Sega probably wanted a fresh start, without its history bogging it down. Despite the fact that Sonic's history is the only reason most people are still following this series, but never mind. So for our final question, the Deadly Six. They seem to awkwardly disappear out of the story from Lost World. Alex thought asking directly about their anticlimactic actions could be offensive, so went for the more subtle approach. Are the Deadly Six Pontaff and Graff's darlings, or are they the product of Sega's marketing team? Question 11. Did you make up the Deadly Six, or is this Sega's doing?
Of course, Sega did.
The Deadly Six? They made it up. They definitely wanted those characters in the game. They had a lot of input on what the characters were like and how they acted. Warren and I also had input in all of that, and obviously we put the words in their mouths.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. They were created by Sega's marketing department. The Deadly Six seem to be the least defined characters of the series so far. We know practically nothing about them besides their beef with Eggman, which ended up being entirely irrelevant to the story. So I figured we might see them again, perhaps in the TV show. However, considering it's the marketing department that pushed them in the game, I kind of doubt it, since it's easier to constantly throw new characters at the games as a marketing ploy. We'll see. Anyway, yes, those were all the questions we asked.
And so the interview comes to a close. Well, give it to us straight, Doctor. What's your final diagnosis?
Evil doctors, I'm ready for my examination.
Okay then. Nothing is more dangerous than giving any "this is how you will save the Sonic series" advice, because the fan base is all over the place and most of them are psychopaths, so you will always make enemies. Nonetheless, if I was allowed to give 5 pointers, and keep in mind, not "this will make me happy and save the universe" pointers, but things that, if it's considered, if it's floating in the back of their head somewhere, that'd be great. A. Make Tails less of a jerk. Okay, you guys give him things to do. Character moments, some spunk. That's great! But keep in mind, Tails' main appeal is that he's Sonic's adorable little buddy. Like a little brother. And yeah, little brothers can be jerks, and I'm fine with him having some friction with Sonic. But you're pushing it a little too far. He's a real passive-aggressive jerk and a little too out-of-character skeptical. Please tone it down a little. If you need a sidekick character to work against Sonic's more optimistic and brash nature, Knuckles is a better choice. Speaking of which, B. Save the Knuckles Foundation. I hate to hammer on this, but despite the fact Sonic fans are always up in arms against each other about everything, this is one thing everyone surprisingly agrees with. We talk to casual Sonic fans, enormous Sonic fans, parents, party animals.
Do you know Sonic the Hedgehog?
It's a point that keeps coming back. Knuckles needs to be saved. Especially if Sega keeps insisting this thing is still supposed to be a main character. Making jokes at his expense at this point is like mocking people in a mental institute or kicking the elderly. It's not cool. He needs some dignity before you can mock him. C. Embrace the goofiness. Don't condemn it. Just like how Mario is defined by a weird abstract universe, Sonic is defined by
goofy action movie tropes.
Jumping out of helicopters, riding a cannonball to attack a pirate ship, jumping through a rock slide to climb a mountain. Now, Sonic always attempted to make the characters more human, more relatable with us. And that's fine to a certain extent. But it is kinda energy sucking if it happens too much. You can parody tropes in a positive manner, by embracing and exaggerating them, or in a negative manner, by mocking and satirizing them. I wish there was a better balance between positive and negative, as especially Sonic Colors felt too much like I'm watching a Mystery Science Theater 2000 episode or some internet critics, rather than a fun comedy adventure. Lost World started to go into the right direction. Nice opening air chase scene and the food fight had some potential. Set pieces, goofy surreal action. Sonic is goofy and crazy. Embrace it. Don't condemn it. D. Big finales are important. Okay, I understand Sonic becoming more lighthearted and comical again. Nevertheless, it's still a comedy adventure. Emphasis on adventure. Big adrenaline-filled finales with grand music playing and Eggman or whoever towering over Sonic are the most well-remembered parts of the series' history. What I'm trying to say is I would appreciate it if the ramp up to the finale isn't Sonic and Tails being detached and sarcastic from the situation and mocking everything. That rubs off on the player. Me. Or a confusing twist that had no momentum or build-up. You do want me to pumping my fists and hopping on my seat in excitement during the finale, don't ya? Not scratching my head in confusion or being completely detached and sarcastic about the whole setup, or do ya? My last comment is actually a compliment. So, Pontaff Graff, thanks for having Amy talk like a normal person in the last game. It's also been about 10 years since she talked like a normal human hedgehog being rather than a psychopath. Yeah, she's funny, and her being obsessed and crazy is part of her appeal, but it's only funny in the right context and on the right moments. And you guys are the first writers in a long time that understand making her a raging lunatic all the time would just be tiresome and grating. So, thanks for that. So again, I'll tip my hat towards Sonic Chronicles for
As for me, I learned a lot of things beyond Mr. Pontaff and Graff's writing that is more about Sega's overall production of Sonic games, and I must say I have some concerns. First, now I understand that the story is made separately from the rest of the game, which kind of reminds me the Sonic Heroes narrative, and I must say I'm not sure about this formula. Just take the Adventure series for example. The story was totally implemented into the games. Remember when Eggman held Amy hostage and ordered Sonic to come and deliver the Chaos Emerald? Even during the stage, it was a true extension of the story. You could hear Eggman screaming at Sonic to hurry up or Amy will die. The actual environment was used for storytelling as well. We didn't feel that the plot was on hold during the game part. So my concerns about this formula is, since these stories are made independently from most of the game's content, I feel like we'll always get superficial stories that way. My second concern is about the Sonic Adventure moment of the interview. After the leak, we saw many reactions and we realized that many people are still attached to the mythology mostly brought by Sonic 3 and the Adventures series. So I felt that the interview's transcript made the fans being scared to lose something about Sonic's core identity. Many of us had a guess that the timeline was being ignored, especially since the last 5 years. Now having the confirmation that it's actually true is bringing some questions and concerns. I'm not blaming anyone. I don't think there's anybody at Sega, including the writers, that are actually plotting to piss off fans who actually care for the story. But I really wonder why the message does not reach them. Is it because these fans aren't vocal enough, or it's because some of them are jerks sometimes, or it's because they're being mocked by other fans? I can't really say the reason. But even for some universal agreement sometimes, for example, everyone hates the new Knuckles because he's a stupid idiot, well, that feedback does not seem to reach Sega at all. So I'm just wondering if something's wrong with the communications or anything. I don't know. It's up to you to discuss, guys.
Well, I wouldn't say they never listen. Sonic 4 is proof of that. There's just too many idiots yelling loudly about stupid things. Whatever. But yeah, this video is taking long enough, so let's leave it here. Well, that's the video.
And that's all for now. See you all.
And I better be in it again next time.
Yeah, and I would just like to say to that small and vocal group of fans who hate me and think that I should be fired and never write another thing. Sorry you feel that way. I'm glad you care about the character so much.